Well, welcome back to episode number 2. Today, we're going to be taking Doug to the next level. We finally started to getting him to join up with us, starting to build a relationship, but now it's time that we take our groundwork and step it up a little bit, getting him ready to ride. So the very first exercise that we're going to be working on is our leading exercise. Now the reason we're going to start there is because what it does is it helps the horse start to look towards me for advice, especially when it comes to levels of energy. See, during this exercise, it really helps the horse understand that they need to follow my level of energy. If I go up, they go up. When I come down, they come down. Because that's how horses communicate. That's how horses understand things. It's through levels of energy. See, most of the time we think that horses listen to body language. They do, but it's really more body energy that they listen to. So by doing that, it helps establish the foundation of communication that's going to last with us throughout the entire working session with him. Not just that session, but it's going to be used all the way through his riding. So let's take you right now to our third working session with Doug. All right, we're on day 3 here of working with old Doug here, and he's actually doing really well, except wanting to be just a little bit more on top of us than what we would like. He's going to be a type of horse that I'm going to definitely have to put a little bit more pressure on just to kind of get some kind of response, which is not, of course, something that I want to be doing. But now that we've created a little bit more of a bond and relationship with him, he wants to be with us more frequently. His attention span sometimes still gets lost, but just kind of putting him in the round pen here, he was running around right when we first let him free, and then when I came in, his attention came more right to me, which is great. So it's really time to kind of move on and go, to something that he really needs to work on, which is kind of even just leading in and out, leading in different locations. But now that we've kind of helped him to want to be around us, this is going to be a lot easier to teach him. Now, something interesting as we talk about really trying to train the whole horse, one of the things that we recognize, we just recently took him to the vet for something. He has a big lump right here on his neck, and maybe I'll put the halter on and bring him over and show you. Okay, so this is the lump that's on the side here. It's hard, it's movable, and we weren't really sure what it was because it's not very normal for the horse to have that. So we took him to the vet, and they say it's the thyroid gland that's actually just in a different location. It's really not a problem. It's not going to bother him any. He's not tended to palpation with it, but we were certainly concerned about it. But just this thyroid gland, and it's just going to be kind of there for him. This is what we're going to work on today. We've started to build this personality. He wants to be with us, but when we lead him literally down and back, or lead him out and wherever, we have a bit of a issue where he is on top of us. If he gets a little excited, and sometimes he gets really excited in different environments. If he gets excited, what ends up happening is he just gets really on top of us. So we're going to start teaching him today our leading exercise and getting him to basically just be a hell of a lot better, in hand. So let's kind of get started with that. Okay, so when we start thinking about the leading exercise, what we're looking to try and achieve here is teach the horse how to lead 3 to 5 feet behind us and be responsive to us when we ask him to kind of step back. Now, because I've built this relationship in the round pen so far, and I've already somewhat taught him how to stay with me, follow with me, and be somewhat responsive about my space, he's better in here. However, taking him out and about, he's definitely a lot worse with things. Now, let's kind of notice something here, right? As I'm now leading just a little bit more and more, his body's getting farther and farther in front of me. And the more he gets in front of me, and the more excitement that starts to get brought up, that's when things start to go a little bit wrong. Now, always get the question all the time about when I'm leading them, don't you want them to be beside you? And honestly, in the beginning, I really do not, because I find that more people get injured from the fact that a horse is up in front like this and then spooking and running them over sideways than I ever do when horses are behind them and thinking of them as the leader. So these are definitely times where I want the horse to kind of lead a bit behind me. Now, how do we do this? This is something we talk about all the time following our program. What we're looking for is we're looking for the horse to give the horse kind of an ask the horse to get back, and then if the horse doesn't listen to that ask, I'm going to go ahead and tell the horse to get back, okay? And so here's how that looks, is basically the first time that I do this, it's not going to be the prettiest in the world. Like, I make no bones about that. It's not exactly the prettiest first time, but it pretties up by the third time. Okay, so how this looks is I first give the horse this ask by giving him basically like a look and saying, hey, I want you to get back. Now, as you can tell, not very responsive, right? So when I don't get that response, I then kind of tell the horse to get back. And what I'm doing is creating a lot more energy in front of the horse. And I'm almost like, it's like a scary movie where a wall just kind of closes in right in front of the horse. And I'm looking for the horse to get back away from me. Okay, so this is what this is going to look like. Are we ready? I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to tell. There. Now, as soon as the horse gets back, I instantly drop everything. Now, he cannot move just yet. So if he moves, I go ahead and tell him to put himself back. So it's really important that I literally drop all pressure and give him at least 10 to 30 seconds of understanding that backing away from me in that moment was exactly what I wanted. And what this does is it's literally like how horses are in the field together. When they start introducing themselves to each other, they sniff each other, they snort, or they squeal, sorry, and maybe kick at each other, whatever. That moment that they introduce kind of each other, the one who starts to back off, generally speaking, will generally be the lower end of the pecking order. Now, when we talk about this is something that is really important. We want to build a relationship with the horse, but we do have to also understand the horse's way of being, and that is that there is a pecking order. There is such a thing that says, one's on top, the other one's down below. And in the very beginning, sometimes we need to make sure that that's definitive, that there is that pecking order, but then it starts to kind of get a little blurred over time, okay, where we can come together just a little bit more. So now that I did that, that was the first time doing it. Second time and third time should start to become a lot prettier. Oh, scared the poop right out of him. We'll give him a moment to. So as I'm walking, he's already kind of wanting to scoot back up to me. So I'm going to give him a look. Much better, much nicer right there. So that second time, much easier than the first time. Third time should be even prettier. We want to get to the place where it's our goal to just say, I want to ask you to back away, and then you do so. We're not looking to make him back up 100 steps, okay? We're looking to create distance between us. Remember that. So when you're asking him to back up, it's important that you keep your feet relatively still and ask them to create distance away from you, not just get after them and shank them backwards, okay? All right. Much better. I can breathe again. Now he's creeping up on me relatively quickly. Ask. Again, better. I want to go ahead and get that extra little step. There we go. Good. Again, I'm not looking for him to create 30 feet of distance, but I'd like him to stay. I didn't ask for that. I'd like him to stay about 5 feet away in the beginning, okay? He has to respond to the speed in which I'm walking. This is not something that, it gives him the opportunity basically to start to read me all the time instead of reading, outside stimuluses. Nice, very good. So right there, that's becoming my ending goal, is where I can just ask and he responds. Nice. Notice where his head is going. He's relaxing down. Now, he is not a dumb horse. He says we're walking in a round pen, so I know which direction we're going. I might as well take the inside path, which will end up making him speed up in the process. If that happens, I just turn to the outside. I didn't like that one. I asked him. He didn't respond, so I need to tell him. When I get him out and about, this leading exercise will do even better, because he won't be kind of veering to the inside. In the round pen teaching it, sometimes that happens. They're not dumb animals at all. They're really intelligent. Much better walking right here. Okay. So the next aspect that we need to kind of help him with is continuing to create attention onto us. And, you know, as you can tell, he loses it. There's distractions right now. There's another horse here in the arena, which, by the way, when there was other horses in here, he would lose his mind before. So this is already a heck of a lot better. But we're going to go ahead and start onto an exercise that I don't do a lot of, but I do it in the beginning to kind of create attention. I don't do it a lot because it's not grand on the body balance, not the way that I'm about to do it anyway. So when we talk about trying to balance a horse, it's really important that we try to get them to shift weight onto the rear end, and the next exercise of yielding the hindquarters is actually very direct on saying put weight onto your front end. So I'm only doing it to kind of create attention and awareness of me, because as you can tell, he's looking at the horse that's right behind the camera. And so what I'm going to do is, now that I've done the leading exercise, now this is going to be helping me for the yielding exercise, where I'm going to keep the same distance away from me, but I'm going to ask him to kind of yield those hindquarters and away from me as well. But I'm going to kind of walk a circle, and I always kind of think of it keeping my feet at the top of the circle and his feet at the bottom of the circle, his back feet at the bottom of the circle. So his feet being at the bottom of the circle, I should be always walking the circle, never getting to the bottom, because the bottom's ever moving, okay? So let's kind of give this a go. The front feet need to stand relatively still. I need to create, there we go, good. Create just a little bit of pressure there. If the front feet move, it's not really a big deal, because I can show you how to stop that movement. I'm not looking, when I think about yielding the hindquarters, I'm not worried about making sure that the hindquarters move perfectly. I'm making sure that the idea, so right there, the front feet move, I can back him up. I'm making sure that the idea is down pat and the attention is towards me. So he's not moving his hindquarters at all perfectly. Back, good. But what he's doing is his attention is coming to me faster. So how do I use this? How do I use this in my everyday work? Is every time that the horse starts to lose attention here, for example, I step over to the side and grab his attention again, okay? But this time, now that I've created this relationship, it's already helping from step one. Now we're into a place where I can teach this, and the horse overall is a heck of a lot calmer and much more willing to pay attention. Now, again, making a mistake right there, not a big deal, right? Just ask him to back up. There, good boy. Nicely done. Look how soft he's wanting to be. Even though he makes mistakes, he's trying, and that's honestly all that I really care about. This side, a little bit more difficult for him. It's not a big deal. So he wants to move his front end a little bit. But again, I don't think he's trying to be bad. He's just literally in the process of trying to figure the whole thing out. But look at him kind of overall. This is much, much nicer. And for that, I feel like he's definitely earned a reward. Much better here, okay? And then what we can do here is we can just start to finish off by what we finished with last time, which is just a little bit of desensitizing here. Okay, now I lost his attention because there was a big loud noise in the woods. So use the yielding to grab his attention back, and then just go back to what you were doing. Use the yielding again. Okay, so somebody walked over. Attention. I'm going to go back to leading, bringing him back to me. Attention. So this is how I use it in the real world. Nice. And I have him back. That's what I'm looking for. Great job. Now, we're not looking for him to have like these two eyes staring at us consistently all day long. I'm looking at putting him in a nice relaxed state of mind, and I'm looking for him to kind of get to that place where he's paying attention to me, and paying attention doesn't mean that the ears are pricked at me and the eyes are staring directly at me. What it means is that he's relaxed and responsive and being willing to try for me. There we go. So as people kind of keep moving around, he's losing himself quite frequently, which isn't a bad thing. This is life, right? This is something he's got to get used to. There we go. Good. Good. And just desensitizing. All right. I'm really happy with this. Now, as we talk about training the horse, it's not always just about the training. It is also about making sure that physically the horse is up to peak performance. So one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is check our horse's body over all the time, okay? Not just from saying, hey, I've had my vet take a look at the horse, but there are many facets to making sure that the horse is in peak condition. So one of the very first facets that we do here is we work on myofascial release work. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some myofascial release work that we've done with Doug. Now, unfortunately, the very first time we filmed this with him, we had some major audio issues. So we had to reshoot it, so you might notice just a little bit of difference between this last video and this next one. So let's take it over to doing myofascial release work. So we're back in the barn, and I want to go over something that I find to be very, very valuable, myofascial release work. Now, I will say that we had started this a little bit ago. Obviously, you notice that there's change. It's cold out right this second. We did film this a while ago with him for the actual second episode, but the problem was that there was some problems with the video. So now we're going ahead and just trying to showcase what this myofascial work is and how important it is, because he's had a little bit of time off. He's come out just a little bit sore, and we want to kind of showcase how we can help him get better. So this is something that I feel everyone needs to educate themselves a little bit more on, because when you really start thinking about working with the horse, it's not just about the training. It's about the entire overall helping the horse mentally and physically to be comfortable and to be able to perform at their top. So let's kind of get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to test the body. We're going to test to see where some pain might be. We're going to test the body, and how we're going to do it is I'm holding a needle cap here, okay? And I'm going to go over a couple of different places that we're going to test to kind of see if he has any pain, okay? And what we're going to start with is what's called the transgender nerve here. We're just going to see whether or not, and I'm putting about 1 to 2 pounds of pressure on, by the way, when I'm pushing down, so I'm not pushing down that hard. You can literally make any horse be in pain if you press down too hard, okay? So if I press here, we have nothing. That's fantastic, okay? Then we're going to come down. We're going to work down the cervical spine of the horse, and we're going to work and see if there's any sore spots down the neck, and there really isn't anything to write home about, right? There's nothing there. So I'm just going to kind of test the shoulder, see if there's anything here. Then I'm going to come up towards the withers, and I'm going to work down. When I'm doing this, I'm going to work down the spine, but I am going to stay a couple of inches from the spine. I'm not looking to do this on the bone, but I'm also not looking to do it on the rib cage. If I come down too low, I'm going to be hitting the ribs, okay? So as I'm coming down, I'm feeling pretty good all the way through here. When I get to the SI, and a little past it, there's some pain right there, okay? Now, of course, we could sit here, and during this time, we had already told you about some of the weight loss that he's had, and so his SI has kind of been a lot more visible here, and we're trying to continue muscling him up, getting him to a place where he can hold himself a little bit better. But here, this SI being kind of this painful is going to become an issue for him. So we need to work on being able to help him get as comfortable as possible here, okay? We're going to go ahead and switch and go to the other side before we start doing any of the fixes and see if there's any issues on the other side. So my guess is because he had no issue on the other side for the transgender nerve and it was only over the SI, this is probably going to be just fine. And then as we come down the cervical spine, we shouldn't feel anything. Shoulder, I wasn't too certain because the right hind was a little bit of an issue. That seemed to be okay. Right there, the SI, still a little bit of an issue. So the SI here is definitely something that we need to be working on and help him. And I'm going to show you an exercise that's going to be really, really helpful to kind of get him more comfortable, and something everyone can do that won't hurt the horse. This is not going to be any chiropractic adjustments, okay? So we're not adjusting. So I'm going to show you 2 exercises that are going to be able to really help him. And if, like I said, if we do this every day before we ride, he should feel a lot better within a week or so. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put our hands in a diamond-shaped position just like this here, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to basically put this diamond shape over the highest point of the horse's rear end right here, which is going to be right at this spot right here. Now what we're then going to do is we're going to take our hands and fingers, and we're going to separate our fingers, and we're going to lower the entire body, the entire back end, and then what we're going to do is we're going to vibrate, okay? So we're going to call this dancing crab. So what this is going to look like is I'm going to come up here, I'm going to lower that body, that croup, and I'm just going to then have a vibrating motion, just like this, okay? And we're only going to do this for about 10 seconds. Excellent. And we're just going to let him be for a second after that, okay? Again, this is not an adjustment. This is breaking up the fascia that's around that area that's so tight on him. So the next thing we're going to do is use one of my favorite tools for the barn, because it's really a multi-use tool, and this here is the StripHair Gentle Groomer. Now, what we're going to be doing with this is, you might just think that this is a grooming tool, but it's really not. Now, obviously, we do use it as one as well, but my favorite part of this is when I use it for myofascial release work, okay? So what we're going to essentially do is we're going to take this and we're going to use this to try to break up some of the tension and the fascia that is in this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically put this at about a 45-degree angle. And I'm not going to be going over the bone. Now this is gentle enough that you can go over the bone and it not really hurt them, but I really recommend when you're putting this much pressure I'm about to show you that you don't go over the bone. So we're going to take short motions that we're pushing down pretty significantly. I'm not going to be putting all my weight, but I'm also not going to just kind of brush it onto the horse here. So I really want to kind of push down. And I'm going to be kind of bringing it at this 45-degree angle, and I'm going to be really pushing down in kind of short strokes in this manner. And I can go at different angles, but mostly all with the hair all the way back, like this. Okay. Good. Now, a lot of times you get the question, can you hurt the horse? I mean, anything could potentially hurt the horse, sure. But this right now is not going to be anything that's going to hurt. In fact, it's going to make them feel much better. Another exercise that we can do here is with what we want to start to do is be able to kind of create hip mobility in the horse here. And so what we can do is an exercise that we take the hind leg, we lift it up, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing the hind leg in front of him, but we're going to not be focusing on where the leg gets placed, but helping the hip start to drop. So if we're watching that hind end up top where he's kind of fighting this, I'm looking for that hip to drop and relax down to a place where I can gently set down the foot, and I have this hip drop just like this. And what this does is it gives a nice little stretch through here, helps him relax, create mobility. We're going to let him sit here for as long as he'd like. There we go, he changed it. And then what I'm going to do is a modification to that. I'm going to ask him to do the same thing with pulling his leg out back. I'll show you how this works. Okay, so I'm asking him to bring his foot down. This, with him resisting, kind of shows that there's a little bit of tension here. There we go. And I want him to be able to relax his leg down. Good. Good. Much better. It helps loosen up these muscles all through here. Excellent. Okay, so now we're just going to test and look how much better this whole area is right here. Okay, so just from doing those exercises, this is 10 times better. Okay, so we need to do that on the other side. Do the same exact thing since both sides were pretty even on that, and then he's done. Do this essentially before you ride. You can do this after you ride as well, but you may find they may be a little less sore if you only check after the ride, because they're warmed up at that point. So if you notice that the horse isn't as sore after a ride, it could be because essentially the muscles get warmed up. So if you kind of think of it like you get stiff in the morning when you first wake up, after you start to move around, you're not as stiff. So doing this essentially before you start any work with them is going to be kind of your best bet, and then do it after the ride just to kind of help them. Well, I hope you learned something, especially when it comes to training the entire horse, not just obviously the training aspect, which is probably why you're here, but also making sure that their body is at peak performance. Which brings us to the end of this video, but don't worry, part 3 is coming, and that's when we go ahead and introduce the saddle. So stay tuned, we'll see you on the next video.